everybody. Good afternoon. My name is Scott Rutter. I'm the founder and president of the New Jersey Cannabis Business Association. We're really excited today. We have the folks from Dutchie here. We're going to talk about all the wonderful things in the wonderful world of compliance, which is critically important for any cannabis industry. You cannot mess this up. It is critical that when you get your license and you're getting ready to operate, that you are compliant, and that'll keep your license strong and your ability to operate in this industry moving forward. So before we get into introductions with Dutchie, I want to thank our sponsors. We couldn't be here without our sponsors. So I'd like to thank Sprague Energy, our preferred energy provider, Financial Resources Federal Credit Union, Curaleaf, Burton Trent Public Affairs, HBK, Township Green, Proteus 420, Saks LLP, Dutchie, Puffin, Canna Remedies, DN Labs, and Netta Architects. We got them all in. So thank you guys. Thank you for being our sponsors. And again, I'd like to welcome Erica and Zach from Dutchie. And I'm going to turn this over to Erica first, and we'll go from there. So Erica, welcome.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Scott. Yeah, good to see you guys. Great to be here. We love working with you all. And thanks so much for having us today. So I'm Erica Lofton. I am the New Jersey lead over here at Dutchie. And I've been with the company for about 3 years. I started out in Oregon, kind of working with mature markets, seeing the other end of the industry, people that have been open for years. And then as more and more states started to pop online, I started getting involved in emerging markets and being able to, focus on folks who are new to the industry or opening up their first dispensary. And it's been so much fun to work in New Jersey and to meet everybody. And I'm also joined by Zach, so I'll pass it over to him for a little intro.
Hey, y'all. Thanks for having me today. Zach Wright, coming to you all the way from Nevada today. I've been with Dutchie for about 2 years now. Currently, I work as their go-to-market operations lead. A lot of my work entails compliance here at Dutchie. A lot of the products that we build and offerings that we build and even API connections, get and post calls, all flow through myself and a lot of product leaders here at Dutchie. Prior to working at Dutchie, I was a 7-year member of the Nevada Cannabis Dispensary Association. I was also an owner-operator and general director and operations manager for dispensaries and cultivations all around the valley. But excited to be here to talk about compliance, especially with everyone from the New Jersey side. It's wonderful.
Awesome. So Erica, what are we going to talk about? What's happening? What's happening with compliance in Dutchie?
Yeah. So one of the biggest questions that I get from my clients is, what is metric? Because I'm sure anybody on this call probably is, in the throes of trying to get your license right now. And even though metric is kind of the thing that controls the compliance and you have to run everything through, you won't actually get your login to metric until you have your license, which is for most folks a week or two before they open up their shop. So I kind of just wanted to talk about Dutchie, talk about metric and how the two interface, and then go in, to some like operational specifics as to what working with metric looks like. And then we'll have a time at the end for Q&A for, people to just ask whatever they want. You have me, you have Scott, you have Zach on the line. So it doesn't even have to be about the presentation. It can be about any questions you have industry wide, and we kind of just love to get conversation flowing.
Awesome.
Cool. I'm going to go ahead and hop into a screen share, and if I can remember how to, there we go. Cool. Yeah, so Zach and I will drop our emails in the chat so you guys can get a hold of us after the presentation if you'd like. Kind of already covered the agenda. And so as far as what Dutchie is, we started in 2017 as an e-commerce company. So, kind of being able to sync with your point of sale, pull your inventory and host it both on your website as well as in store as what you're selling. And our founders, they had a lot of experience in startups. They had a lot of experience in cannabis. And so we very quickly became the leader in the e-commerce space, and we are working with, thousands of shops, and we were able to get a lot of support from our dispensaries as well as from investors. And in 2021, we closed our latest round of funding at 500 million. And for the first time in the industry, you had a company with the resources to kind of sit back and look and say, what does the cannabis industry need? And from our customers, there were 3 areas that were their biggest pain points. Number one, which is our bread and butter, was the point of sale. And so from our e-commerce customers, we would continuously hear our point of sale sucks, doesn't integrate in with Metric, it keeps bugging out, it keeps failing, we can't do this, we can't do that. And so point of sale was a huge issue, as well as access to banking and access to non-predatory insurance. So in response to these 3 pain points, we purchased 2 point of sale companies. We acquired one out on the East Coast that was built more for more robust dynamic operations. And then we also acquired a leader out on the West Coast that was kind of more streamlined, stoner proof, and built for mom and pop shops. And so from these 2, we basically pulled the best of both into what is now Dutchie Point of Sale. And so that's been out on the market for, about a year, and kind of has this foundation of these 2 point of sale systems that have been around for, almost 8 years. So that was our one solution. The second was for banking. And so, and I don't know, I think in New Jersey, you guys are pretty lucky. You have 5 or 6 banks that are willing to work with cannabis. And they all seem like they've been really good options so far. But historically, people couldn't get a bank account, and you couldn't even get a bank account from, as an employee. I have customers who would go in, they were a general manager, and they had to lie about what they're doing so they could get a bank account to deposit their paycheck. And so Dutchie kind of took its weight in the industry and started to build out a network of banks and make sure that our customers had access to banking, so they could basically operate like a normal business. And it also opened the door to being able to do non-cash payments. So debit cards, ACH payments, and that allows you to normalize the shopping experience, as well as, keep down the risks to your company from having a ton of cash in store, as well as, make things more efficient for the checkout process. And the third thing that we looked at, and it's important if you're opening a dispensary to look into, is cannabis specific insurance. And so a lot of our customers, again, they basically were paying all this money for an insurance policy, and they would go to file a claim, and they'd be told because they work with a federally legal drug, their policy was void. So we moved into that space as well. And Liz Ellie is our insurance broker. She works with a network of cannabis specific insurance companies. And basically we can look at details of your business, what kind of insurance you're looking for, and then provide a solution on that front as well. So that's Dutchie in a nutshell. And so now I kind of want to hop back into that presentation and start to discuss what Metric looks like. And this is just, you can see, a sample of the point of sale here, kind of what that looks like as well. So as far as Metric, I want to zoom out a little bit and really break it down as to what is Metric and why do you have it? And so if you zoom back to New Jersey ending prohibition and allowing the sale of cannabis inside its borders, a lot of things needed to happen for that to go into place. There were a lot of regulations that needed to be made. There were a lot of stakeholders that needed to agree that the sale could happen. And, in order to bring cannabis into the state, there were specific tax incentives and ways that money was going to be used, to welcome cannabis in. So in order to enforce these rules and in order to make sure there is a financial incentive for having cannabis in the state, New Jersey needed to hire a company to help them track what's going on in cannabis. And so essentially what Metric is going to do is it's going to integrate into your license, and it's going to track, it integrates into your point of sale, and it's going to track everything from your sales, your inventory, every time product moves in and out of your facility, all of that stuff is being logged in Metric. And so Metric is really great at tracking those aspects of your business. What we're not very good at is running a retail operation. So the reporting, the discounting, kind of loyalty, all of that stuff. So what cannabis operators have to do is essentially have two systems. You have Metric, which is state mandated, and then you also need a cannabis specific point of sale. And so from your point of sale, that's where you get the benefits of all of the retail operations. And so for a long time in the industry, these two systems didn't talk to each other. And then the Metric integration has gotten better and better. So at this point with Dutchie, it's essentially seamless between the two systems. So if you change things in Metric, it's going to be, it's going to be talking to Dutchie. If you change things in Dutchie, it's going to push to Metric. And if you're coming over from another industry, this is probably a big shift for you because you guys probably don't have, a second level of governance. Don't have purchase limits on what you can sell. So compliance is a huge aspect of this industry, and folks, it's a pretty new aspect as well. And so like I already mentioned, you've got that point of sale inventory, you have the inventory that you're tracking in Metric. Most people also choose to use e-commerce, which would be another set of inventory. And then you have the actual live physical inventory that's in your store. And so with Dutchie point of sale, you can basically integrate all of the technologies. And there's way more technologies than just what I'm talking about today. We've already started looking into your tech stack. You've probably started talking to a lot of different folks. And Dutchie's integrations will basically streamline everything so that you're only putting information in once and you're not having to duplicate it and do all this manual work to run your retail operation. Okay, and I'm just going to pause for a moment. I don't think I saw any questions pop up, but if anybody has any, throw them in the chat.
I'm not sure where you're going to go next, but I have like a specific question for me, right?
Yeah.
So I am going to be a licensed retail operator. I have my annual license. But I'm still, putting, the rest of the pieces of the puzzle together. There's funding, there's issues
Right.
with the municipalities and things like that, that I'm going through, that everybody's going through right now. When I get started, though, right? So I'm gonna work with Dutchie, just supposed to say I'll be working with Dutchie. What is our interaction going to be like? And so for the group here, so what's a typical interaction going to be like as far as like onboarding, and then once we're operational? And then what I really want to know is, and one of the things we discussed in the past was how I can best utilize Dutchie for sales purposes, right? So I can start to track trends, understand customer buying, habits and things like that. What time of day is good for this, and how we can start to utilize that type of information for specials. So what's going to be our starting point, and then do we get across the finish line?
Yeah. So as far as your starting point, so you'll have an implementation team. And so essentially you will sign up with Dutchie, you'll be assigned to an implementation specialist, and then you'll go through the training. And we recommend taking at least 30 days to do it because, technology is only as good as you know how to use it. And so you'll have an implementation specialist as well as a whole bunch of resources that are self-guided. So videos, step-by-step instructions, and you'll essentially do some self-training as well as meetings with your implementation specialist to hit specific milestones. And then once, you're ready to open, you'll go through kind of a test run of the opening, and then they'll be on call for you for the duration of your, the first week of opening. Once you are on us, Dutchie does, it's pretty much a one-stop shop for dispensaries. And so as far as we have over 300 built-in reports, everything from employee performance to your inventory reorder reports, your taxes, obviously like closeout shops, things like that.
Go back for a second. Employee performance. So tell me about that.
Yeah. So you can basically look at how your employees are selling. You can look at how much they're selling, how many customers they've served, what their average order, like how many products are in their average order, as well as kind of, like the size and stuff, and you can compare those. And so that helps you figure out how well they're performing, as well as folks who might need some more education on products.
Very cool. Very cool. So I asked a very specific retail question, but you guys service the entire industry, correct? So retailers, manufacturers, and cultivators, tell us a little bit more about the same sort of onboarding process for cultivator and manufacturer, and then again, some performance benefits by utilizing Dutchie.
Yeah, so it's very similar with cultivators and manufacturers. So obviously it'll be a different knowledge that you're learning, but you'll still be assigned an implementation specialist and kind of go through that whole process. At the cultivation level, what we can do is help track plants themselves. And that's what I'll go into next, is kind of that seed to sale tracking. So we can track the plants themselves as they grow, as they're harvested, and packaged. And then as they go over into manufacturing and processing, there what we're tracking are your recipes. So what are your inputs to get your outputs? And as you put in metric tracked products, we're going to pull those out of your inventory. So as you go through these recipes to create your final product, everything is syncing with metric. As well as then when you get into retail, you can, there's also a manifest, which I'll cover as well, but you're going to need basically a piece of paper that allows you to transfer things to and from facilities. So, you will be able to create that in Dutchie as well.
Very cool.
I think the biggest thing to highlight too, with having cultivation and production and retail all on one platform, is from like a vertical supply chain standpoint. When you're processing goods and then also like transporting or selling those goods essentially to yourself or to your supply chain. A lot of the times what we see with folks who are on our competitors' point of sale is that they'll have to integrate with another like cultivation software, essentially, because they can't provide that. And the caveat with integration is that a lot of those developers aren't speaking to one another when they're building things. So very quickly, a lot of things can become very broken. A lot of things can become very double entry or double action. You're having to do it in your retail point of sale software, whatever it is, as long as it's not Dutchie, of course, because you have cultivation and retail side by side, and then you're doing it in Canix or GrowFlow or one of those types of softwares. And we keep things centralized. So we have a global product catalog for the cultivation, for the retail, for the production facility. We have the ability to have a global batch manager. So if you enter testing on one product in your cultivation facility and it sends to your retail, boom, immediately when it gets into that retail inventory, it already has all of the details that were pulled over from the cultivation. So lots of really fancy reporting as well that you can see throughout your supply chain analytics as well. So
No, that's critical. That's awesome. Fantastic.
Mhm.
So
Cool.
Erica, you have more of your presentation to share?
I do.
All
Yeah.
right.
So I'm going to hop back in, and we kind of talked about the why of metric, and now I want to dive a little bit deeper into the actual operations. So we did a webinar with Metric a couple weeks ago, and so this is a slide from them. And essentially, it's called a traceability system, or a lot of people also call it a seed to sale tracking system. And the reason that it's called that is because that's exactly what it does. The second that a seed goes into the ground, typically it has to grow to a certain height, and then it's going to get a metric tag. And so that metric tag will have a unique identifier that needs to stay with that plant and that product all the way through till it gets sold to the consumer. So as it's grown, it'll be harvested, trimmed, turned into a final product. Then you need to create a manifest, which again is basically a documentation of a transfer of cannabis from one facility to another. And so you'll create that, you'll transfer it over to the testing facility. It'll be tested. Those test results will be logged back to that unique metric identifier. And then it will be transferred over to the manufacturing and processing to, kind of be turned into whatever the final product is, and finally over to your retail operation. And at the retail, when you receive it, you'll get it digitally on that manifest as well as physically. So you'll kind of do a physical assessment, decides what we want to pull in and pull out, and then you'll accept those things into your facility. And Zach, did you want to add anything here?
Yeah, I'd love to weigh in. I think that a good explanation for why Metric does this specifically, and why they're the only ones in the traceability market doing this, is because they're solving for the problem of first diversion, right? They don't want facilities backdoor selling goods out of the actual cultivation and then essentially leaking those on the black market. The other point of this too, for those tags, whether it's the RFID tag on the plant or the RFID tag on the actual parcel, is for recall purposes. Metric in a lot of states has actually recalled products that are had maybe potentially not passed testing, or potentially had hazardous materials inside of them. There's been production facilities in numerous states that have had E. coli outbreaks, mycotoxins, yeast and mold. As much as gross as that stuff sounds, it can happen. And if something doesn't pass testing, Metric can actually alert retail facilities using these tags and using a historical database to say, hey, these have been recalled from the market, remove them from your shelves immediately. Great thing about Dutchie, we actually have warnings, tools, and reports that would immediately alert you if this happened in your inventory. So you could immediately be in compliance, pull those products from your shelves, and then send them off to be destroyed.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah. And Zach mentioned, those tags. And so these are the RFID tags that he's talking about, the Metric tags. And you'll see that they'll have the testing facility, the license number, and most importantly, this identification number. And so this is the Metric ID that you need to track everything back to. And so to kind of show you the true value of Dutchie, I'll show you a little bit what this can look like in operation. So when you have your inventory, and this is specific to retail, but it's going to be the same, you'll be receiving products in out of manufacturing and processing. Cultivations also need to track to a Metric ID number. Would say that you receive a package in. And so just for terminology's sake, a package is, all coming from the same plant. It has the same test results, the same in the same Metric ID, but there could be various products in one package. So you can see here, I have 6 packages of gummies, all within the same, or 6 products of gummies, all within the same package with one shared Metric ID. So to look forward, this is what starts to happen in an actual retail operation. You're going to have multiple different packages, all with products inside, and each one is going to report back to a different Metric ID number. So fast forward to a fully stocked retail operation, this is what your inventory room could look like. So if you look down here, you're going to see those gummies, and you have 10 boxes of the same product. There's 6 packages inside, or 6 products inside each package. And if you have your bud tenders fulfilling an order, and somebody orders, the chews, and they go ahead and pull something out of package A, but they scan the barcode for package F, all of a sudden you're out of compliance, and you are no longer selling the correct product. It doesn't, it's not reporting back to the right number. It's not tracing back to the right test results. And you can quickly sell over or under a package, a Metric package ID. So that's one of the most common discrepancies between, in Metric. And at some point in the lifetime of your shop, you will get audited by the CRC. And if you have a lot of discrepancies in between what's in Metric and what is physically in your inventory, you will be fined. And worst case scenario, they can take your license and shut down your shop. So that's why compliance is so important, because before you get into the operations, it might seem like just a lot of words or a lot of technology being thrown around, but you need things in place in your tech stack to make sure that your physical, what's happening physically is also being reported to Metric.
And that can't be stressed enough, which is why we're really excited to have you guys here, because the fines are occurring. I mean, that is happening. So when there are these discrepancies, the CRC are issuing fines. And it could be, could jeopardize your business. They could shut you down. They could do a whole bunch of things. So compliance is critical. It seems annoying, seems bureaucratic, but it is the rule that's in place right now. And it's so it's in everybody's interest to make sure that they are, the physical inventory matches the, what's in the compliance-based system and software.
Thanks, Scott.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, pretty much just what Scott said exactly is you have all of these different inventories that need to sync. And so that's what Dutchie does. And we do have the best integration with Metric on the market. Like I said, if anyone wants to reach out, I'm happy to send you the webinar we did with Metric a few weeks ago. Zach had a spotlight there as well. And, you can really, it just speaks to the strength of your cannabis point of sale is only as strong as its integration with Metric, because anything that doesn't push over to Metric, you then need to manually duplicate in the compliance system. And so Dutchie is able to control pretty much every aspect of your business. We can work across all workflows. If you have delivery, if you have a consumption lounge, if you do order fulfillment, roaming bud tenders, all that stuff. We are going to streamline everything and make it easy to use, make sure you have all of the tools that you need to run a successful retail operation, as well as put guardrails in to make sure you're compliant and make everything stoner proof. So whoever your bud tender is, they basically can't mess it up, and they can pretty much just run a retail and you can feel safe knowing that your business is guarded by Dutchie. And all in all, why choose Dutchie? So I've spoken a lot about compliance, but and I would argue pretty confidently that that's the most important thing in your point of sale, but there are other aspects as well. And so Dutchie does work with 6,500 shops across the US. We do streamline operations, and we also have results in a lot of different areas. So our payments, we're able to track people that use our payments versus don't. We do see a 15 to 20% increase in average order size, as well as a reduction in costs and risks surrounding cash management. The insurance has been able to cover a lot of folks who had holes in their policies. Liz has been able to read people who are already open and operational and find the gaps where they might be at risk in their policies. And we also have a whole government relations and compliance arm. So that's headed by Brian Barish. And right now, him and his team are on Capitol Hill working with federal regulators in the descheduling of cannabis. So when cannabis is descheduled, that's kind of going to open up so many doors for everyone and make everyone's life way easier.
Yep.
And we also have a whole social equity and social justice aspect to the business as well. If you are a woman-owned, minority-owned business, or you qualify for a social equity license through the state of New Jersey, we have preferred pricing just to lower the barrier of entry into this industry as much as possible. And kind of going with Dutchie, who is the industry leader and has been around for quite some time, you have a lot of expertise and knowledge on the line as well. So you have, myself, who you'll work with through the sales process, your implementation specialists, and then a whole customer success and support team. A lot of these folks have been operators. A lot of folks have been around for a long time and are really able to make sure that you're set up for success. I know I've been talking for a while. I will turn it over to Zach if he has anything else. And then I know we had a few questions in the chat as well.
Thanks, Erica. I think the biggest focal point to take away from a lot of Erica's presentation is the fact that compliance will always kind of be a governing entity within cannabis. Regulatory bodies, as I'm familiar with, make up a lot of silly rules, and it's very understandable that it can be frustrating from a retailer standpoint and from a cultivation and production facility standpoint. But I think the biggest thing when you approach compliance is making sure that you have a partner, and that's exactly what Dutchie provides. It's not just software. as new markets emerge, as markets grow, our compliance team, our product team is constantly meeting with retailers, production, and many facilities, just like potentially maybe your future selves or your current selves, that and listening to feedback and continuing to grow with it. That's essentially our motto, is to grow together and continue to allow us to pioneer the industry as a whole, not just as a separatist kind of software company that's dominating the industry, right? We want to grow with our partners, and that's exactly what you get when you sign up with Dutchie.
Thanks, Zach. Yeah, and there was a question in the chat. Do we work with, a lot of the big MSOs in New Jersey? The answer is yes. We are working with the majority of open shops in New Jersey right now, both the medical as well as some of the recreationals that have started to open up. So, we have a great relationship with our operators, a great relationship with the CRC, as well as, every state is different. And so it's very important that the tech stack you go with has experience in the state that you are in, because states have different rules, different laws, different metric integrations. And so we are up and running and have been, for a while in New Jersey.
Looks like someone asked in the Q&A, how does the wholesaler fit into the supply chain of my inventory as a retailer in Dutchie's platform? I'd be happy to answer that. So the wholesaler supply chain, it's dependent on your, obviously if you're going to have a distribution license as well. But from a cultivation and a manufacturing standpoint, the inventory interaction and inventory actions that you have as a retailer are the exact same software, inventory actions, and tools that we're giving you as a manufacturer. It's conversions, creating packages, moving inventory, not just physically, but in your software as well, manifesting and receiving things to and from metric. And of course, if you're one of those folks that have a vertical license or you're vertically integrated, as we talked about before, Dutchie has tools in software specifically for vertical operations that kind of track batch management, supply chain workflow, all of that really unique stuff. As a wholesaler too, we have over 100 reports that are just detailed just specifically for wholesale cannabis that can be manipulated. We also have, as an additional tool suite, we have a business intelligence platform that you could go in and you could create your own reports based off of our syntax and our data fields that are embedded into Dutchie, putting you in the driver's seat as a developer, making your own reports, but in an easy to use platform with a lot of description and guidance of what you're placing into those reports. We have scheduling tools, all kinds of stuff that can help you really drive forward your revenue and make sure that your return on investment inside your business is of the highest tier.
So in addition, compliance-based reporting that we definitely need to do with the state, how can I utilize Dutchie for my own financial or tax reporting, and how does that how do I use that inventory or that information for my purposes for financial and tax reporting?
Yeah, so we have a whole financial and tax section of our reporting as well. I'm not sure how New Jersey specifically does its cannabis taxes, but you'll be able to run reports looking at each tax type and how much, you owe, how much you gave of that tax type, and then be able to take that information and put it into whatever portal New Jersey requires. If your state has a really, interesting tax reporting, we often build out state specific tax reports as well. And then on top of that, most people use QuickBooks, and they want a holistic view of their business as far as the rent, the utility bills, all that stuff.
Right.
We do have an integration into QuickBooks as well.
That's terrific. Yeah, that's again, it feels like you guys are one-stop shopping for a lot of your compliance needs, right? And then the insurance side, I didn't know that you guys were into insurance as well. So when did you guys start providing insurance? And then how more, what more information do you have regarding insurance?
Yeah, definitely. So we started providing insurance, I think about 1.5 years ago. We stood up an insurance department, and Liz Ellie, I mentioned her before, she is the head of that department. And so we can pretty much do insurance of all different types. If, you know, building insurance, business insurance, workers' comp, if you are a cultivator, we do crop insurance. And so we work with a network of trusted cannabis specific insurance providers. And so essentially we'll be able to get more information about your business and then get you quotes from some of the best in the cannabis industry. And what these policies do is essentially they're going to cover you and make exceptions for a lot of cannabis specific things that might void other policies. So for example, we've seen policies that cover your products unless they're not in the vault. So if you have any sort of products out on the floor, all of a sudden those don't fall under insurance. Or we're gonna, insure your business unless you have firearms on the premises, which if you have a security guard, which a lot of states require, all of a sudden that voids the contract. So there's just all of these things. And then of course the federally legal drug is the biggest one, where there is a hidden clause somewhere that is going to void the whole thing because you work with cannabis. So we're just pretty much making sure that we've got your back and that we're working with partners that we trust and know will set people up for success.
That's really great. Really great. Glad to hear that. And everything you said, and we got great feedback from the folks in chat talking about this. Has been a great discussion. And I can't emphasize to everybody how important it is to, to get, Dutchie, groups like Dutchie, but, be compliant, work with this group. The fact that you're going to be able to go from seed to sale and everything in between, you can help your employees do better in performance. You can focus on specific products that are doing well. Those that are sitting on shelves, you're going to have a better understanding what's not moving. It's a great program, Dutchie. Any last thoughts, Erica, Zach? Do we have any more questions that are out there from the group?
Yeah. And then Linda Graves. So there's one last question. Do you work with cannabis vending machine companies? Yes. So ACE is a cannabis vending machine company. They actually, I don't know if you guys have heard of Terrapin, but they're an MSO. And so they had one of their members create a cannabis specific vending machine. It scans IDs, it's compliant. And so they actually have an exclusive integration with Dutchie. So that is one of the leaders in the industry. They have a really great, experience in Colorado, and they're working with folks in New Jersey as well. I don't know that they have one live in New Jersey, but they're kind of talking about that there. And then I know there's a couple other out in the market that we can integrate in with as well. So Dutchie does have an open API. So if we don't have an integration with someone today, we will release our API endpoint so folks can, build an integration with us to get their product into the market.
That's awesome. That's great.
Yeah. And any last thoughts? Thanks for having us, Scott, and NJCBA. Super excited to be here. If anybody is looking into opening up an operation, I would love the chance to meet with you and be able to show you the product front to back, so you can see how it works and kind of visualize what your workflow is while you walk through the product. So thanks, everybody.
Yes, thank you very much, Erica and Zach and the entire Dutchie team. You've been great supporters of the NJCBA. You guys have a phenomenal product. Couldn't be more proud for you guys to be part of our group. So thank you very much. I do want to thank our sponsors one more time. I want to thank Sprague Energy, our preferred energy provider, Financial Resources, Federal Credit Union, Cureleaf, Burton Trent Public Affairs, HBK CPAs, Township Green, ProTS 420, Saks LLP, Dutchie, Puffin, Canna Remedies, DM Labs LLC, and Netta Architects. I think that's it. So I would just again, thank the Dutchie team. Thank everybody for joining us today. We are heading into our July 4th weekend. I would wish everybody a very safe and happy and healthy holiday break, and enjoy your independence. Thank you all.
Thanks, everyone.